us, and we will also have some discussion opportunities so that you guys can talk about it.
Before Brenda starts, I just want to remind everyone, on your agenda, there's a Genrefy Wakelet, and Brenda has sent 2 fantastic handouts, as well as the link to her book is on that Wakelet for us.
Thanks, Joan.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I was interested in the idea when I'd hear about it at the library conference, but it just seemed like so much work, and it is, but it's worth it. So what got me going was I'm a school librarian at Andy Central, and then I'm also at Wagner Community, and I go every other day between the 2 schools. Well, Andy's used to be in 2 buildings, so then the middle school and high school was going to move over to the elementary building. We did a big addition. So I thought, well, if we're going to move, this is the perfect time to genrefy. And I had no idea how great it would be. I mean, I was hoping it'd be good, but it really was, because now all these books are checking out that before they weren't. I did a war and military section, which, the nonfiction, they're already grouped together, but then I put the fiction next to the nonfiction, and then these books that hadn't checked out since the 80s started checking out, where normally, if it was fiction, if it wasn't a war type book, I would have weeded it if it hadn't checked out since the 80s. And then like another time, I showed these students these books, and I'm like, do you think anyone would read these? And they're like, because that was when I was genrefying, and I said, would you read these? Because I knew they liked that genre. And they're like, well, where are those? Are those brand new? And I'm like, no, they've been here for years, but they could never find them, because they kind of just like going to their spot, and then so they don't branch out so much. So that's been the good part, is they're finding books that have been overlooked for years or actually decades. And, you know what type of books you like. So then once you go to that section, there they are. I'm K-12, so like the little kids, they want to know where the spooky books are, the cat books, the horse, football, those. And then the high school's more, they like graphics or fantasy. But they're different. At Andy Central, I did it differently because I had a whole year to do it. So I just gradually, 1.5 years actually, they postponed the move. So I did it in the library, the high school library, and ahead of time with carts. And I just gradually kept moving, shifting over where there already were a bunch of spooky type books, the supernatural in one section. So then I just cleared that out and would go up and down the aisles and pull more and put them in. And after I did it at Andy Central, then I thought, well, we have to do this at Wagner because it had gone over so well. And at Andy Central, I just guessed on the genre because I hadn't read a lot of them. So I'd read the summary and I guessed. But I have an assistant at Wagner, and she's like, I'm not going to know what they are. And Mackin they will, you upload your list and they'll put them in genres, all the fiction, which I'm sure a lot of companies do that. And that was $200. So we had that done. And I mean, I really did have a lot of the genres wrong at Andy Central, I found out. So that was a learning lesson. But also then you had this master list that when kids say, where's the whatever book, if you don't know the genre off the top of your head, you can check the master list, because I'm gradually updating the catalog by putting it in the subject section, the first one in the subject section, because then it shows up in OPAC. I started by doing it in the notes section, but then it doesn't show up very well in OPAC for the kids. And they're the ones you want to find it right away. The handouts have different ways you can do it.
Did you want me to share my screen so they can see? Do you want to go through those or?
That would work.
Okay.
Because that pretty much has my information. But jump in with questions whenever you want. Okay, so having good signs, because you have to know where the sections are. And then I did a little activity at the beginning of the school year, giving them a tour of the genres and the bookmarks with, you know, the definitions of the genres. And if you say, like, what types of movies do you like? What type of music do you like? And, you know, then they can relate to, well, what types of books do you like? It carries over really well. So they can find the books faster and new ones. Shelving is a lot faster because you have the labels. You could either go color coding, like, you know, romance, obviously. The obvious color for romance would be pink, but it doesn't have to be pink. But you can do that where you put a clear, like tape over the label, or you could add colored dots, or you can get the labels that have the picture and the words. And if you already have a lot of labels on your books, you might want to go with just the dots or the transparent tape, because otherwise your whole spine's filled up with the call number, the AR information if you have a accelerated reader, and then if you have another label, you don't even have room to see the title, and sometimes depending on the book. But I've really liked it. It does take time, but you don't have to do it all at once. At Wagner last year, instead of doing inventory, they let us do Genrefy, and we only got the high school done in a month. Well, it wasn't a full month, but then we sorted them on tables, because I have a lot of big tables there, and then moved them back. The most important thing is to leave lots of room at the end of your shelves, because you are always going to find more books that, and plus you need room for new books.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat that are coming up. That's okay. So one of them is Christy in Wyoming says, did you do both fiction and nonfiction, or did you just do fiction?
Well, nonfiction kind of, you know, already is by the call number. But so what we did are the popular ones, we combine them. So say the sports books, we have all the fiction, and they're still alphabetical by author's last name, so you can find them. And then we do the nonfiction like right next to them. Because if they like sports, you know, a lot of people are interested in both, or if they only like fiction, then they might notice the nonfiction and then, you know, branch over. And so sports, we have fiction and nonfiction beside each other. The spooky or supernatural, the scary ones are together. The cats and dogs and horses, we have the fiction and nonfiction beside each other. And then we tried to put similar categories together. So historical are close to like the war and military, and the spooky and fantasy, you know, if you like those, there's a lot of carryover. Let me read the other questions.
Your other question is, did you have to get permission from your administration in order to genrefy?
Well, I did because, for one thing, it's not free because you have to either buy labels or stickers. But, you know, they're all on board, because usually if you present it it's going to promote reading, and it'll make kids find books easier that they like. And it didn't cost that much.
Do you want me to pop you over to the prices sheet?
Sure.
Okay.
This is just what I gave to one administrators, where a list of options, you know, how to do it with the stickers or the dots or the clear tape, and advantages and disadvantages and the overall, well, the estimated cost. And I did go with the labels, which I got mine from Demco, and I found out later that Mackin has them also, and I'm sure the other book vendors have jumped on board too and have them. So that helped. I did that at the second school, but the first school, I mean, I pretty much they didn't care, you know. they don't pay attention to the nitty-gritty of how the library is organized. So it was a pretty easy sell.
And, Amy Jo, you have a great question about the confusion it might cause students when they go to a public library or a college library and try to locate books. Have you had any feedback on that?
Well, the public libraries, a lot of them, at least, around here, are starting to genrefy. And when you go to a college library, that's Library of Congress anyway. And I think most of the kids, if you just explain the system, then they get it and they know. I mean, they're pretty good at finding out, they ask where their types of books are that they like, and then they remember. Because with Dewey Decimal, you can explain how it works over and over, but until they can't find a book, they don't, it doesn't really register with them that much. And there's still Dewey incorporated with this because the fiction are alphabetical by the author's last names. And the nonfiction, most of the sections are the same. Oh, we have like a Native American section too, that we have the fiction and then next to the nonfiction. But
and Corrine, you have another thought there about it being genrefying that's too subjective and the kids still can't find anything. And so I guess, does anybody else have any, thoughts on, kind of that organization? So Brenda, when you tried to figure out your topics, do you have that in your first slide, your first set of where you
yes.
came up with your topics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. I mean, it is subjective with some, but then they either ask or they can just look it up on OPAC. But overall, they can find their books on their own without needing help. And like in a school library, you might get a whole class at a time, where in a public library, it's usually easier to get individual help, if they're not organized the same way. And I don't know. It's like, the kids, I don't know what to say other than I really like it after I'm doing it. And I think the students really like it. And teachers have been happy about it too.
So we've got some more really great questions coming up here. So did you do all of your own cataloging when you made the changes?
Well, that's the slow part. I mean, we're gradually doing it.
Okay. And I remember when Rapid City Public did their move to their fiction, their nonfiction is whatever, genrefied type. And they did it kind of in sections. They picked like some of the popular sections and stuff like that, and then they gradually moved it all. And it was a lengthy, it was an ongoing project, and so it wasn't something that you just do it in a weekend. But it's nice. I mean, I use it some. I'm a shopper online, and then I go in and get my books, so I'm not really a browser. Yeah. We have another question, and this is the one that hangs me up all the time, is when books fall into more than one genre, how do you decide where to put it? Dum, dum, dum.
I know. That is the challenge. And so I'll usually ask students, where would you look for this? Or I'll put it in the category that's more popular, so then they're going to be more likely to have it. That picture on the bottom right that says special section, showcase special series. I mean, if you just want to try special displays. So those are the middle school most popular books. And that's where everyone goes first. And I'm not done at Wagner. The high school's done, and we were probably half done with the middle school side when COVID shut us down. So, but or just with the picture books, putting them in baskets. So, all the animal books are in this basket, the shark books are in this one, and that makes shelving really fast. And the kids like, just because they like seeing them, the cover, they totally judge by the cover. So with the little kids, so the baskets, I have them on tables or even in the shelves and baskets, and not all the picture books, but the ones in high demand, and then they just go to the basket.
And that makes sense. I mean, and picture books are hard because they're so skinny that, it's easier to basket them anyways. Ron notes that, signage is a major thing to consider, and that's something that you've noted a couple different times in your handout. Connie, you say your students chose the genres they wanted, limited to 10 to 12. Do you have like a little student advisory group, or did you just ask everybody, or how did you do that?
I just selected students that I knew were using the library and understood what the different genres were. So it ended up being like a group of fourth and fifth graders. And we had a list. I think the original list was like 30 something categories. And then we kind of, did a lot of curation and kind of figured out what worked for ours. And so we have an animal, in the elementary, we have an animal section. And that one, we actually changed the call number. So it's A for animal. And then in that section, instead of doing it by author's last name, we do it by the animal. Dogs, there were so many that we actually had ADO for dogs, and then the other Ds. Biographies, we did the same thing, B for biography, and then we did it by who the subject was, for both biography and autobiography. And then the other sections all ended up being the author's last name. But they were the ones that really came up with them. And so there is a sports section. There's a realistic section. Probably the biggest trick one in the elementary, it ended up being M for mystery and horror together. And then when we did it in the high school, I let them have a couple extra categories. And so actually two different categories.
Well, that's awesome. And I love that you brought the kids in. I mean, it just makes it kind of part of that community that you have in your library. Yeah, Ron, it does seem like how Barnes and Noble organizes, it's the way people browse. It really does turn it into more of a browsable collection, and Brenda, you noted how
putting that you put it in the section that you think kids are going to get it the most.
Exactly.
And that.
My brother, who has a business mind, said, well, it's just like what they do at the grocery store. You don't want the cereal alphabetized all throughout the store. You want all the cereal together.
That's funny. So Jen says they put the book in the genre where they thought the kids would most likely find it, and Rhonda, I love how you say that if you have any questions about the genre, you go by what jumps out at you on the cover, because that's what the kids will remember anyways. And so that's really that's a fun one. And Erin says they use when they have more than one genre option, they check out Goodreads because their users put it in genres. We have a question from Shelley. She says, how do you handle shelving and having a sub?
Well, for shelving, because the label is on the spine and then I have signs, so it's easy. And it goes really fast if on the cart. First, we put them by the genres and alphabetize, and then they go so fast when you shelve them. But for a sub, they don't do a sub for me at Andy Central.
You don't have that experience, is what you're saying.
And then at Wagner, I have an assistant there, so she usually can handle it, but sometimes there's a sub, and it is difficult with the sub. I would say to just have the sub, shelve them on the cart by genres and alphabetize within there. And then when you get back, the shelving will go fast because they're already in their categories.
Okay. And then Rhonda, I love this comment about the baskets making a huge difference in your library. How they tended to look raggedy on the shelf, but they're easier to put away, easy to label with pictures and words, and the kids know where to find what they're looking for. And that's something where I haven't been in as many school libraries that have done the baskets. I mean, I've been in some that have, you know, some, little baskets, but both Hawken County Library and Rapid City Public Library, their picture books are those browsing. They're in bins, and while I really do like to be able to go and find the book on the shelf. It is nice to be able to kind of flip through the books and you see exactly what you have there.
All right, Ron, I didn't redo any of the labels. I just added because I still wanted them to know it was a fiction book or a nonfiction book. And, you know, it still had the first three letters of the author's last name. So, like, if you did the transparent tape over it, you're just adding a piece of tape over it. But if you're doing a genre label, then you're going to add, you know, like a sticky over the genre label. But you have to find a spot where you don't totally cover the title. And I had another thought, except I can't remember it.
I was going to make sure we kind of covered all of your thoughts here. So, do you want to talk about your ebook?
Oh, yeah, I did do. It's available at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Where are the spooky books? How to genrefy your library, and it also includes about weeding and packing. Because if you're, you know, a lot of times people have to move, like you're getting new carpet or whatever, or if you're going to genrefy, it's still a big move. So there are tips on packing books and things like that too. But I have free downloads for the Kindle books today through the 13th, if anyone would be interested.
Thank
Free
you.
is always the best price. And as librarians, we like, oh, I know what I was going to say. If you're wondering about the genre too, you can look up on your library vendor, because most of them put the genres on there also. Even if you don't pay for that service, you can look them up individually.
That's good to know. I mean, and it is nice to know, kind of, especially with your vendor, even if you're not paying for it, that so like when you start buying new books, you know, those are things you can pay attention to as you're purchasing too. So that's good. So any more questions or comments right now for Brenda? Okay. Karen, do you have questions?
I'm just going to say that Brenda is amazing to work with. She will answer an email on a dime, and she is super easy to, and I am going to for sure go download this right now. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
So
I hope you try it. Oh, go ahead.
Actually, like so Ron is wondering how we would do it. We do want you guys to kind of talk about this a little bit, and so I'm going to kick you guys back out into your groups that you were in earlier. Brenda, would you mind sticking around for a little bit so that they can go out, and I'm going to ship them out into breakout so they can talk and do some slides, and then we'll come back and we'll answer any last questions, and then we'll let you go, Brenda.
Oh,
So
good.
So I'm sharing the agenda with you guys, and so there are some discussion slides there, and so if we click on the discussion slides, they're very simple. Really all we've done is dropped in for each room questions. Do you genrefy? So that's pretty much yes, no. Pros, cons, and questions, comments. And so obviously you don't necessarily need to answer all of them, but go through. I think there's going to be a few rooms where you are more than 3 people, but for the most part, I think you'll be if you want to, you can duplicate your slide and have room 1, part 1, room 1, part 2 if you need to. So I'm going to drop you off into breakout rooms so that you guys have a chance to kind of answer those questions and have a little bit of small group discussion. Do remember that the Wakelet on the agenda not only has Brenda's resources, so the first 2 are Brenda's PDF, and then the pricing options and those different techniques that she talked about. And then as we roll on down, there's other resources that, you know, from different sources of to use with it. So, all right, so I'm going to find my breakout. And I will send you guys off unless there's questions.
I think we're ready.
Okay.
One thing you're weeding, and that creates space, but it still works. I mean, maybe I just had enough space to start with, but it didn't require any more because I pretty much had the shelves full. It seems like I have more empty shelves now than I did for some reason.
Because they're checking them out?
Maybe that's it.
And I think you address this, I think I saw this in your PDF, where you talk about what do you do with popular authors who write on a variety of subjects?
Well, that's the trickier one because like Jodi Picoult, I just put them all in realistic at Andy's, and then at Wagner, once I found out and we got the official list, then I found out, oh no, they're not all realistic. You know, some are mystery and some are, one that said supernatural, but we put it under Christian because it was, you know, I think more of ghosty stuff for the supernatural. But when they check them out by that author, I'll say, you know, we have more of her books in other genres and point that out. And the good part is sometimes then they might start reading those other genres that they ignored before.
Mm-hmm.
But Gary Paulson, his are pretty all over the place too. But if they really like that author, then they'll follow them into another genre.
Oh, good. And that was somebody in the cons talked a little bit about, you know, if kids only want to read sports books, that would be all. So the book is Where Are the Spooky Books? How to Genrefy Your Library, and that is
It's in the Wakelet.
It's in the Wakelet, and it's the Amazon. It is in the chat too. So okay, so let me keep skimming down through the questions. Oh, this is a really good one. Who asked this question? Rhonda, you say you really like it, but you don't know really how you'd arrange it in your space for novels. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Rhonda?
Well, our shelf, we have a small space and it's all like these massive shelves. So like I can see, whereas if I could do, you know, one column is, you know, mysteries, and the next column is romance, and the next column is something else. But like they are these huge, long, big shelves, and I feel like dividing them, I just, you know, I just couldn't see it. And I was actually genrefying the little kids books this year in my second library, and it really hasn't been a priority, you know, because I just felt like I had to focus on the one thing anyway. So I really didn't move towards that. But, you know, I feel like maybe my space is not, I don't want to say conducive to that, but unless I would put them in bins or something, I'm not sure how I would arrange it, the space in novels, because one section would run into the next. You know,
can you remove, on your bookshelves, can you remove some of the shelves? Are your shelves movable?
Yes.
So what I did is I took the top shelf and moved it down to make it look bigger. And so that, made it look like, so then I could label it really clearly.
Oh, you could put the label right in the well.
Yeah, yeah. So,
That's
and
a
then,
good idea.
put your signage in the middle, put face out a couple for examples. It
Mhm.
makes a display shelf too.
Right. And then I could actually line the back with colored paper too,
Color code it, yep.
just to change it, then they're looking at this is all red, so, it would be
Right.
easily identifiable. Huh, good idea. Thank you.
See,
Oh,
all you gotta do is talk to a
we did
couple
that
librarians.
together.
We need to get us all together and we could do world peace in like half a day. Um, so we had a question about cataloging in Destiny, Sandy. So has anybody done that in Destiny, catalog for Genrefy?
I
Nope,
did.
I'm trying Thursday. Go ahead, Erin.
Megan did it, she says.
Okay. Oh, good. So we have Megan and Aaron and Karen is working on it. Is that what we
Yeah.
said? Okay. All right. So I'll just drop that in the chat here, or not in the chat. And so we can.
And Jen too said she is.
Oh, excellent. There we go.
One of the articles in the Wakelet is about someone who was doing the computer work from home because she couldn't go into her library. So
Cool. Well, this is good. Oh, and Suzanne did too. So awesome. So let's see, rolling on through the slides. And I'm sorry, you guys, I renamed the rooms and they don't jive with the slides. You guys rocked it. Thank you for being flexible. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, well, I have no idea where anybody is because they're not named anymore like they should be. So I am sorry. Is it okay to leave some nonfiction as a nonfiction section only?
I did. Yeah, I mean, I still have a nonfiction section. It's just that like I put sports, nonfiction, and fiction together, and even with your shelving, you can skip a space and then start a new genre if you need to, and just put a big sign in the empty space.
And so, and like, if we look at some of yours, like here, this war and military, you have nonfiction to the left and fiction to the right.
But I still have a different nonfiction section that's like set apart from the genre part.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And then Megan, you say you left all your picture books all together in a picture book section. And so those are just alphabetical then by author? Let's see. Oh, slide 16, room 11, has a lot. So Andrea, how would these get entered in the system? What would show up as a call number? And I think that's the logistics of that, I think would be nice if we could get that again, because Brenda, you talked a little bit about, you did it one way and then you learned you probably should do it a different way. So if you guys want to drop in the chat, those of you that have done it because Megan, you say you added as a sublocation, you can also add subject headings. Where do you put it?
Well, on the spine label, I never changed anything.
But we're talking about in the system,
Okay, yeah, for me, yeah, I did the first subject line.
The first subject line, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Megan says the mark record. Jen says left the call numbers, added a sublocation, and then do a batch update and scan the books that go in the sublocation. Ooh, Jen, it sounds like you have some wizard level catalog skills. We'll be writing down your number. Okay. All right. And this is, I can see this. Sarah says, your older patrons at the public library have not liked it, especially if they're frequent library users. And I think that's that's one of the things that I can empathize with is I don't like to browse. I'm not a browser. And so I don't like to even like go to bookstores. I mean, I like bookstores, but I don't like to go with the intent to find something. So I like to be able to look it up and have them tell me. And so I think that could be a challenge. Is it okay to do selective genrefying? Ooh, what do you guys think?
I'll add to that one. We didn't actually do a slide in our group, but I'm in Cheyenne and we have 27 elementaries, and we've been told we cannot genrefy because we have a lot of kids that go, you know, to more than one school and they want it consistent. So that's one thing that I've been prohibited from doing this. But what I've done is kind of within the system, I use the genre stickers that you were talking about, Brenda. And I do like a genre of the month that I highlight, usually with like a candy guessing jar that goes with it. So like when we talked about adventure, the candy was lifesavers, so they could kind of put that together. And then within my nonfiction, I'm K4, so I have a lot of non-readers that come in, and at Hobby Lobby, I found a lot of the wooden cutouts, like of a sailboat or of a dinosaur or of a penguin. And so I've tried to kind of stick those on the shelves in the nonfiction section. And yeah, sometimes, you know, penguin books are in 2 different places, but I just try and get where the most of them are and put that wooden cutout. So I guess I do kind of a selective or hybrid model.
I love that. And I love that you're helping your learners, you know, even though you can't necessarily genrefy, because that was one of the things when you guys were in the breakout rooms that I talked about how in smaller systems it's easier to do this many times because you don't have we all have to be consistent type of thing. So, all right. And then Karen just says, wish her luck. So you guys, we need to wish Karen luck. All right. Well, unless there are any other questions, lots of really good comments, lots of really good experiences here. And I think you guys can come back to these slides and use them as a tool. So if you're like, well, who was genrefying? You can pop in and look at those and ask questions to your colleagues. So thank you so much, Brenda, for coming and hanging out with us for an hour. We really appreciate your time.
In addition to her free book, she has also shared her email in the chat.
Oh.
So that's an invitation to send her more questions.
Or pictures too of your progress.
Okay.
If you
Great,
decide to
thank
go
you.
for it.